now error in measurement. This is all it is about is when you decide, you might say 40 centimetres or millimetres, for example here. How do I know I'm going to call it 40 millimetres or 41 millimetres or 56 millimetres? When do you decide? Isn't it when it's closer to that little line? So that's what we're looking at. Now, it says absolute error. Any measurement, you know, like when you measure something, you might say, yeah, it's closer to this. When do you decide that it's closer to that? When it's, for example, if I've got 55, 56, and 57 millimetres, when do I decide that I'm going to say 56 millimetres? Looking at the screen. Is it going to be over here? Or there? How do I know exactly where? It will be halfway. Right. So halfway is when I decide I'm going to call it 56. Same with the other side, halfway. That halfway thing is the absolute error of your measurement. Now, pretend I'm zoomed in. These are millimetres. You know a millimetre is really small, and I'm zoomed in. When do I decide I'm going to say 56? When my measurement is closest to 56. So, it might be here, 55.6 or something, but I'm still going to say 56. The error, when I say 56, the error is actually half a unit this way and half a unit that way. Do you get it? I could be sitting over here, but I'll still call it 56. I could be sitting down here, but I could still call it 56. Do you remember if it's exactly on the line here, do I say 55 or 56? It's exactly on the midway line. Do I round up or down? Yeah, so it's 55 and a half, I call it 56. But if it's 56 and a half, I call it 57. So it's got to be less than 56 and a half for me to call it 56. So, therefore, any measurement should only be recorded correct to the smallest unit on the scale that you're measuring it. This is called the precision, how precise your device is. The absolute error of your measurement is. So if I report my answer is 56, it could be as much as halfway on this side, do you get it? Or all the way up there. Minus a half or plus a half from that 56. Do you get that? This is what this means. So the absolute error of a measurement is the greatest possible error or the furthest by which you could be wrong. It's equal to, now see how this is plus or minus a half? It means you could go halfway up or halfway down. That's what that means. So the absolute measurement is plus or minus of the smallest unit marked on the scale. Now, this scale does not have the halfways. I put them in there myself. They're imaginary. All right? So if the scale only said 55, 56, 57, the smallest unit is 1. But I've put these in myself. You'll see what I mean in a minute. All right, girls, I think it's best to do these by example. Look at this tape. It's a builder's tape. What is the smallest unit? What's the smallest unit? 50. This is millimetres. 50. What's it going up by? No. Yeah, from there to there is 10, but what's each of these little dashes? 1. So the smallest unit is 1 millimetre. Do you get it? Not 10. There are 10 dashes between 60 and 70 and 50 and 60. So can you read A? What does A say? Look at your paper. What's the reading on A? It's 40 millimetres. And what's the reading on B? So this is the answer to B. What's the reading on B? I think it's actually 56. B is 56 millimetres. So, how would you record measurements A and B? A is 40 millimetres, B is 56 millimetres. Now here's the new bit. What is the absolute error? For when you say 56 millimetres, what could it really be if it was 56? Couldn't it be 55 and a half, up to 56 and a half, really? So the absolute error equals plus or minus a half of the smallest unit. What is the smallest unit on that scale? Sorry? What's the smallest unit? It's not 10. What's 1? So it's plus or minus a half of 1 millimeter. So this is you have to learn the definition. The absolute error is plus or minus half of the smallest unit. You look at it and you say, what's the smallest unit I can see? It's millimeters. So it's plus or minus half of a millimeter. What's a half of 1? It's a half. So it's plus or minus 0.5 of a millimeter or plus or minus half a millimeter. That is your absolute error, plus or minus half the smaller unit, half the smallest unit. Now we're going to practice and you need to listen very, very carefully. Got it? So this is what we're going to do with all these measurements in the table below. We're going to look at the smallest unit, the absolute error and the limits. What could that measurement really be? That's all we're doing. All right, let's go. 40 centimeters. Because that's given to you to the nearest centimeter, 40 centimeters, the smallest unit is 1 centimeter. I'll show you why you know that. So the absolute error is plus or minus half of 1 centimeter, which is plus or minus a half. What this means is that 40 centimeter measurement that you see really could be anything from, do you know what I'm doing here? I go 40 minus a half is 39 and a half. So I've got 40 centimeters. That smallest unit is 1 centimeter because they're giving me whole numbers. 40 centimeters, 41 centimeters, 42 centimeters. So because this is to the nearest centimeter, the smallest unit is 1 centimeter. So the error could be half a centimeter on each side, plus or minus half a centimeter. So therefore the actual measurement could be anything from 40 minus a half is 39 and a half centimeters up to 40 and a half centimeters. Does that make sense? So if you've got 40, 39, 41, when do you decide to call it 40? When it's 39 and a half. You get it? And when do you decide to still call it 40, anything below 40 and a half? I know you don't want to include the 40 and a half, but we do. We just say plus or minus half. The next one is 56 seconds. What's the smallest unit? It's, 1 second. So the error is plus or minus half of 1 is a half. Plus or minus half a second. So what could that 56 seconds actually be? The limits. So 56, what's the number before 56? So it could be 55 and what? And a half up to what? Thank you. 55, yep. Oh, thank you. Seconds. So it could be anywhere from 55 and a half seconds to where? So girls, what you do, you take your 56, you subtract half from it, and you add half to it. What's the next one? 56.5 seconds. Girls, the next one's a bit different. 3.4 mils. Now, this is where things get tricky. How do you know the smallest units here are 1 centimeter, 1 second? You know why? Because they're whole numbers. So when this is 3.4 mils, that's not whole numbers. That's going up by 0.1. What would be the next number after 3.4? 3 point? What's the number before 3.4? 3.3. So the smallest unit is 0.1 of a mil. You're counting up by 0.1s. We're going, see, like with the seconds, it was 56, 57, 58. They're whole numbers. Goes up by 1 second. This other one is not whole numbers, 3.4 mils. Next number would be 3.5, then 3.6. So I need plus or minus half of 0.1, not half of 1. So the absolute error is plus or minus a half of the smallest unit. So girls, I don't know where we're going to do this. So what I need is plus or minus half of 0.1. Now you can do a half of 0.1 on your calculator. Do you know what you get? It's always got a 5, but it's not going to be 0.5. What do you think it's going to be? Point what? Yeah, it's 0.05 mils. But if you can't remember that, just do it on your calculator, a half of 0.1. So girls, what's my answer going to be? Here's my 3.4. Remember I said 3.3 is down here, 3.5 could be there. I'm going to give you a hint. Yeah, You know how you know it's 3.5? 3.3 is really 3.30. 3.4 is 3.40. 3.5 is 3.50. What's halfway between the 30 and the 40? 35. What's halfway between 40 and 50? 45. So therefore, it's 3.35 to 3.45 mils. Girls, really important. The other thing you could do, you just take the 3.4, subtract 0.05, get your answer. Take the 3.4, add 0.05, get your answer. Are we okay? Right, the next one's a bit trickier. They're a bit different. The next one says 600 kilograms to the nearest kilogram. What's the smallest unit? If it's to the nearest kilogram, it's a kilogram. So what's the error? Plus or minus half of 1. Plus or minus half of a kilogram. So girls, what's the limits for that 600 kilogram one? What's 600? So you go 600 minus a half. What's 600 minus a half? 5 what? 99.5. And 600 plus a half is 600.5. Now the next one is the tricky one. Okay? The next one is 600 kilograms to the nearest 10 kilograms. What's the smallest unit? 10 kilograms is the smallest unit. Okay? See, girls, when you're counting big things, you don't count it, like we say 23 million people in Australia. It's not exactly 23 million. That's to the nearest million. So the smallest unit is million for the population of Australia. So it actually could be 22.5 million or 23.5 million. When we say 23 million in Australia, million is the smallest unit. So it could be 500,000 less, 500,000 more. All right, next. If 10 kilograms is the smallest unit, plus or minus half of 10 is 5 kilograms. So what could the actual measurement be? It could be 600 minus 5 kilos or 600 plus 5 kilos. Do you get it? So 595 to 605 kilograms. I know. All right, are we done?